On one or two issues with my guests. We're talking about bridging that divide between public and private schools. This is particular attention to Gauteng, but really this, I think, goes across the country. It really does. And a conference was held yesterday. It was a consultative summit on issues confronting the department and independent schools. The theme, working towards an integrated education system. Here with us in studio, we've still got Dr Tim Nuttall. He's the Rector of Stithians, and also Joe Mpisi, who's the chairperson of the Education Portfolio Committee. Thanks again, gentlemen. We'll just quickly wrap this one up. We've had some wonderful feedback from Twitter. I'm going to summarize what I've been reading, but one of the big issues that comes up is still about racism in schools, and we left the conversation talking about that. Also with regard to Afrikaans schools, that Afrikaans schools don't seem to want to change. You either fit in or you get out. Now, what is the policy regarding this, and what are your views with this?
No, thanks, Len. I think you know the Waterkloof situation in Pretoria. We have engaged with the school because for us it doesn't matter that an African school can also provide other languages. As part of the transformation agenda, we strongly believe that there are still conservative people who believe that Afrikaans should be a standalone a language somewhere. Their schools, their culture must be respected, not wanting to integrate into the mainstream of our education. Remember, they took us to court. I think they were supported by some civic organizations, the African civic organizations, who took the MEC to court because they don't want to change. I don't know what is the fear, but we still believe that they will still want to retain the old apartheid model, whites on the one side, blacks on the other side. And next to them, I'm just giving you a Waterkloof situation. Next to them, it's a primary school, which offers English, Zulu, and other languages in that school. That school can't feed into that school, and that is a problem.
Yeah.
And these kids are just a fence apart from each other.
Yeah.
And that tells you a problem.
That fence is the determination between a good future and a not so good future.
Indeed.
And that's what also people was criticizing here with on Twitter, and saying that we all after schooling go into the same economic system. But it appears that those that are in the private sector that have the money to pay for a good education have a much better footing and get much further in life than anybody that can't afford a good education system.
You remember what we dealt with when we were dealing with Kuro situation. I think when we went there, myself and the MEC, we found out that black kids were put aside and white kids aside. And we felt very bad. We were taken aback. Because we don't believe in this day and age where we're celebrating the good democracy that we have in South Africa. We still have people that are practicing that just because they have money. I mean, there's nothing wrong. Our kids must not be subjected to our history. Yes, we must learn from that, but history must not punish the future generation of our society.
Absolutely.
And I think it's something that we must do away with, particularly the African-speaking schools, which want to concentrate and have their own, some kind of a brother bond arrangement there. That thing has to be done away with.
Disappear.
But we must introduce legislation to do away with that.
Yeah.
Because without legislation, you can't do anything.
Absolutely, and people can do what they like if it is not changed. I just want to bring the private schooling back into this conversation. I came across a very interesting article that was actually, it was out on The Independent, and I think it was just maybe 2 weeks ago. Amazingly, it's talking about exactly what we're talking about. Now, this was specifically taking on KwaZulu-Natal, the top schools in KwaZulu-Natal. And those cited in this are Hilton College, Michael House, Durban Girls College, Clifton, talking about, and I imagine, and please tell me if I'm wrong, since Stithians, I mean, you're in this category, that's some of the greatest schools in the country, that many of them have not transformed, that they're saying here at 80% of the teachers at one of these schools that are cited here, I think it's at Michael House, they're saying that it hasn't transformed at all. 80% are still white teachers. And of course, I mean, that is unacceptable in this day and age. it's not moving fast enough. And one would think at private schools, because private schools, even during apartheid, were accepting black pupils. And you'd think that that would have been the first place to have changed, and yet seems to be the last place changing. Talk to me about St. Stithians' perspective and transformation with regard to teachers at the school.
Sure. Could I just comment about language as well? And
Please,
the importance of having multiple languages taught in schools. So at St. Stithians, English is the medium of instruction. We also teach Sesotho, we teach isiZulu, and we teach Afrikaans. And that's a way forward. And I think to come to your second point, it is absolutely critical that we do transform the teaching staff. So at St. Stithians, we have 1/3 of our staff are black teachers and black professionals. And we are aiming towards a half black, at least half. And our intake, our enrollment at grade R and grade 8, our target is to be at least half black students. And we are moving towards that. So that is a very important challenge, because our students need black role models as teachers in our schools.
Yeah, and you'll
that's
never
a challenge
change
that,
if it doesn't.
that we need to embrace.
Yeah, I mean, if you, even as a white pupil, sitting in a classroom with white pupils around you, a white teacher, you go home, you have a maid in the kitchen, nothing's changed. It's all exactly as it was when I was at school.
Yes.
These things have to be fast-tracked. When you say you have an aim, when by? When is this going to happen by?
Well, we're looking at a 3 to 5 year period, and one of the things we're doing is we currently employ 40 teacher interns who we are training, and they are predominantly black, over 90% black teacher interns, some of whom we will employ, but others we are educating for the public sector. So it's about us growing a cadre of black teachers who will work in our schools.
Yeah. Okay. Finally, we're going to head up to news headlines, and this is where we've got to start wrapping the conversation. There's no way that I can't bring up these incidences, and this is very sensitive footage. If you haven't seen this video clip as yet, then it is sensitive, I'm warning you, but it's of a young girl at school who is being literally whipped by her teacher. It's absolutely unacceptable. I know this happened in KZN, not necessarily in the province. This is an incident that just happened to be caught by a pupil on his. I mean, this is horrific. This is against our law, right?
Definitely. Leanne.
How is this allowed?
I don't know, but this is more happening in KZN. In Gauteng, if that could have happened in Gauteng, that teacher was going to be expelled, not even suspended, expelled immediately,
Absolutely.
and then arrested for that. And we'll encourage parents to report these matters, because we don't think that corporal punishment has a space in our country. Our kids, you know, yesterday when we were sitting with these kids and listening to them, and you're thinking of these kids that are being punished like that by their teachers in various schools, particularly in KZN, we think that is bad.
Yeah.
In Gauteng, I think we have expelled a lot of teachers who are in love with learners, who are having sex with learners, who are abusing learners, assaulting learners. But equally, we want parents to help us in this regard, that we must actually educate our kids how to behave, but teachers themselves must also be cancelled at some point. I was saying to the MEC that we need more time. We need some kind of a summit with the unions which are representing these teachers, so that they must understand that when somebody breaks the law, it's not a labor-related matter. Somebody breaks the law, and that person must be moved out of the system. But yesterday we agreed that we're going to share the blacklisted teachers from public sector and the private sector. That's
not being done already?
Yeah, it's not done.
I'm shocked.
We have here in Gauteng, we have blacklisted a lot of teachers, as it says, but we haven't shared that with the private sector. And that's why this summit, it's important, so that we can be able now to get rid of people who are not willing. Because teaching, it's a calling. It's not just an ordinary profession.
And you determine the fate of so many people.
So we want that to respect.
I've got to leave that there. But Chairperson, thank you for talking to us. Great views here on the programme. Joe Mpisi, the Chairperson of the Education Portfolio Committee in Gauteng. 30 seconds to give me your closing comment, please.
Thanks, Leanne.
Go for it.
I think in all of this, we must remember that we have a collective responsibility, public and private, to educate dignified citizens who are going to create a new South Africa. And I think the new initiative between the leadership of the independent sector and the MEC, the chair of the Portfolio Committee, the head of department. This is the way forward as we embrace a common vision of dignified citizenship.
Excellent. Dr. Tim Nuttall, thank you very much for joining us, the Rector and Executive Head at St. Stithians College here in Johannesburg. Thanks very much for talking to us. All right, it's your news headline time. Palace.